There he is. Okay, we'll open our meeting. Am I getting an echo? Talking into a pipe. We'll open our meeting as usual with a moment of silence to pray or as you wish, so that we may better be able to do the business of the county this evening. Thank you. And we'll now have our land acknowledgement. Acknowledge that we're on the ancestral territories of the Mi'kmaq people, and we thank the Mi'kmaq people of today for their ancestors for sharing these beautiful lands in Pictou County with all of us and our ancestors, whether they came 400 years ago or 4 years ago. We are all treaty people. Okay, moving along, we need a motion to approve our agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Boyles and seconded by Councillor Turner. Any questions on the agenda? Go ahead, Councillor Wadden.
I had asked, excuse me, to have the library discussion put into the in-camera session. Would we be able to do that?
When we come to it here, to have it on the in-camera session?
Yes, please.
Okay, we can do that. Are there any other questions on, or I should ask our CEO first, does that fit to go in camera?
I believe the information does qualify.
Okay. So if there's no other changes to the agenda, all those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. Now, are there any emergency resolutions tonight? Any emergency resolutions? Not seeing any hands go up, so we'll skip by that one for this evening. And we'll go to our council, our minutes. It says March 3rd on here, but I think that's tonight. So we can't approve these ones yet, so we'll go with February 3rd. Are there any errors, omissions, corrections from the February 3rd meeting? Any errors, omissions, corrections from the February 3rd meeting? One final time, any errors, corrections, omissions from the February 3rd meeting? Hearing none, we're going to declare those approved as presented. Now, we have several pieces of correspondence, and one is going to take a little bit of time. Maybe they all will. But the first one is a letter from Nova Scotia Municipal Affairs Minister John Lohr on resource development. I think you all received a copy, but I'm going to read it anyway because it's important. Received on February 11th, dear mayors and wardens. This was all municipalities across the province received this letter. Recent events in our world are changing the landscape of our province and country. We are experiencing new fiscal challenges that will have a significant impact on our economy. It is clear we need to become more self-reliant. And at the same time, we need to better integrate our economy with other Canadian provinces and territories. Our government has recently announced that Nova Scotia must say yes to both a reduction in interprovincial trade barriers and to resource development within our province. Both steps need to be taken carefully and in consultation with our communities. Resource development in particular is of incredible importance. If you are supportive and agree, I am asking for you and your council to signal your support for greater resource development within our province by letter or press release. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Honourable John Lohr, Minister of Municipal Affairs. So a meeting was called last week of NSFM, our Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, to discuss this letter and some other legislative changes that have been introduced in Halifax of great concern to many municipalities. And so at that time, some councils had already dealt with this letter, depending on when their meetings were held, and it seemed like the majority of them had simply accepted it for information purposes only. that they weren't going to reply. But our Federation president, Pam Mood, requested that each council write a letter or email, whatever, to her, giving them the permission to deal with the provincial government, the Premier in particular, not just on this letter, but on a number of other legislative changes. And I believe some of the items that were dealt with that day, I think Councillor Thompson sent out a summary of some of those that was on the agenda. But so what I'm asking for tonight, and that's why I sent it out last night so you'd have some time to think about it, is permission from council for me to write that letter to Ms. Mood, President of NSFM, giving them permission to speak on our behalf with the provincial government, expressing deep concern with not just this letter and where it puts us, but also with the number of legislative changes. One that's of deepest concern is probably that we will no longer probably be receiving a one-year notice of things that would affect our budget from a provincial level. If they're going to change something, we always had a one-year notice to get ready for it, and that appears like it's going to go by the wayside. So that's what I'm requesting tonight, and what I sent out last night had one extra sentence on it, and I don't remember it all now, but it was basically saying that the municipalities in this province have a long history and a proud history of being part of government along with the two senior levels of government, and that needs to stay that way. We can't give up our ability or our prerogative to speak on behalf of our citizens. We can't give an open checkbook on what might happen in the future. But what I want tonight is to know from councillors, first of all, can you give me permission or to give permission to Ms. Mood at NSFM to deal with the province? And do you want that extra sentence added, or would you rather just go with, as I said last night, that was what East Hants sent, and it sounded perfectly good to me, so I said, well, no sense reinventing the wheel here. But I did suggest that we could add that sentence if councillors thought it was appropriate or not. So I'm asking tonight for that permission. If somebody wants to make a motion to that effect, then that would get it rolling. And if it's approved, then fine, we'll go ahead with that. And is that with that additional sentence or without? I'm sorry, use your mic.
I would include it, yes. Is that included?
Okay, all right, and I have a seconder. So is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, we'll call, go ahead, yeah.
I'd just like to make a quick comment on the correspondence that we did receive from Minister Lohr. I find that letter very broad, and I find that it's not, at first glance, it's very quick to say, of course, you know, who wouldn't be behind this letter, but it seems very broad, and by writing a letter of support for something that's so broad, we're not necessarily might be understanding what we're agreeing to or supporting when everything is, like I said, so broad. So I think it's very important that we have a discussion and have somebody at the table and have, I think this is very important that NSFM is there and standing up for our municipalities. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the letter or on the motion, I should say? Go ahead, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. In regards to the information we got from Pam Mood as well, she made some pretty salient points here. It opens up with saying there's a notable electoral success has led to the second largest majority government in Nova Scotia's history. So since we have a supermajority, we need a voice to push back against some of the things that supermajority may bring forward. They're able to change House rules easily pass bills. So I think that the municipalities really have to step forward and put a stake in the ground and say, you know, we're an important part of government as well. So I agree that letter should be written. And some of the points that Mayor Mood had put in should be expressed as well in that letter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other concerns from councillors or points of view? If not, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. Thank you. Now, we also have a few other letters there. I'm not going to read each one of these for sure, but one from Public Works Minister Fred Tilley on Trunk 4 road work, one from Nova Scotia Health regarding the security concerns that we brought up at the Aberdeen Hospital, and one from Barb Harris and the Friends of Northumberland Strait regarding resource development in the province. Are there any comments or questions on any of that? Go ahead, Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, on the one from the health board there on the security, I think that's a pretty poor letter. I mean, all she said, yeah, we have something in place, you know, that's all I seen in the thing there. So, I mean, what have they got in place? They got somebody in the fifth, floor window looking out and watching, or what's, I mean, they never told us nothing. And what I heard by turning around and asking some of the people that work there is, there's nothing in place. If you turn around and want to go to a security officer and say, I'd like to be walked to my car, yeah, they'll walk you to your car, but if you don't ask, you're not getting it. So I think that's a pretty poor letter. I think we should be finding out from what is their security measures.
Okay. Any further comment on any of those other three letters? If not, we'll move right ahead. So we have a proclamation this evening, which affects certainly many individuals and families in this county and across this country. So I'm going to read that proclamation now. It's called the Purple Day Proclamation 2025. Whereas Purple Day is a global effort dedicated to promoting epilepsy awareness in countries around the world, and where epilepsy is one of the most common neurological conditions, estimated to affect over 50 million people worldwide, and 42 people in Canada are diagnosed every day. And whereas 1 in 10 persons will have at least one seizure during his or her lifetime, and whereas the public is often unable to recognize common seizure types or how to respond with appropriate first aid, and whereas Purple Day will be celebrated on March the 26th annually to increase understanding, reduce stigma, and improve the quality of life for people with epilepsy throughout the country and globally. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim March 26, 2025, Purple Day in an effort to raise awareness of epilepsy in Canada, signed by myself, Warden Robert Parker. Okay, so we'll move right along. So under business items not requiring action, we have the New Scotland Business Incorporated February report. This was in your package. Any questions on the New Scotland report? Don't see any. So we'll move along to the second one, which is a lot of reading. The Pictou County Partnership Quarter 3 report. Any questions on the Pictou County Partnership report for Quarter 3? Okay, seeing none, we'll move right along again. So we have come to what we dealt with earlier this evening, which is the second reading of the Land Use Bylaw and Municipal Planning Strategy. So this is the We've had our meetings, we've had the public hearing now, we've had first reading. If there's no major, I was told by the CAO earlier, there's 3 choices here. If there's no major changes, then we go to second reading, we send it to the government, and it's there by their deadline of March 31st. If there are any major changes needed, requested, required, the decision is of the 12 councillors here tonight on that, then it can go back to the PAC, Planning Advisory Committee, and they will look at it and attempt to make those changes if they feel that it's ones that are going to benefit all of the people in this county or the majority of people. And the other option is that it go directly to council rather than the PAC. But the normal way would be the Planning Advisory Committee would look at making changes, and then it would go to council after the Planning Advisory Committee. So it would be a two-step process, whereas if we went directly to council, it would be one step. But it probably will go to the Planning Advisory Committee because that's the way the system's meant to work. Because of the advertising and whatnot I mentioned earlier, that cannot happen by March 31st. So at that point, I was advised by our CAO that we would have to ask for an extension, whether they want to give us an extension or not. Otherwise, they can, make up their own mind and put in what they want, rather than what the people of this county want in there. But we're hoping to avoid that and get an extension if we need it. If it's decided tonight that we're going to vote for the second reading and it to be sent to the province, and that timeline doesn't make any difference, but otherwise it does. So the point, do you have something you want to say at this point, Brian or Ian, about how we address the concerns, as to second reading here? Go ahead then.
Okay, sure. So you've had a number of submissions submitted to you in writing, as well as a few presentations here this evening. The submission by the County of Antigonish is probably, at this point, one of the largest concerns in relation to drinking water and source water protection, as that is a statement of provincial interest. The watershed in Antigonish does extend into Pictou County. There's a very small portion of it that does come over the line. That is not contained in our current draft. Basically, the watershed was missed in the documents, and therefore we have not likely complied with the requirement around drinking water. What this means is that we can approve the documents and submit them to the province. However, the omission is almost certain to probably trigger a ministerial review. At that point, the minister can approve the documents as they are, or the minister can impose the regulations to basically make the MPS and bylaw conform to the provincial statement of interest. So he can impose his whatever regulations on us. So the omission off the watershed in Antigonish that extends into our municipality does need to be fixed. Other municipal units have provided feedback, comments on watersheds, and those can be debated, included, or whatever by council as they see fit. The general principle is that anything that provides more stringent regulation does, in essence, re-trigger the process. So by adding the Antigonish provisions into the bylaw and MPS, that is a substantial change to that. That's not what you had previously advertised, so that would trigger basically going back to first reading, public hearing, second reading. As the warden indicated, it could be simply referred back to the PAC to come up with a final draft off the bylaw and MPS, and then recommend it to first reading. The warden has also mentioned the period of time that takes. That's not something that can happen overnight, just because there are mandatory notification provisions, there are advertising provisions, things of that nature. So it's really something that will take a little period of time. So we have discussed the impending timeline with the province, basically to say that if we go back to first reading, there's no possible way that we would meet the March 31st deadline. The indication is that an extension would be granted to allow us to basically get the document right for submission to them, so.
Okay, so if this is, the case, unfortunately, it wasn't anything that council did. We went through the process and the public meetings, everything. It just got missed by Upland, I guess, the group that was doing the, do you want to speak to that at all, Ian?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so the statement of provincial interest does require that all municipal drinking water supplies be identified in the documents. And we did miss the small portion of the Antigonish one that extends in, and that was on us, and I apologize for that, and we'll certainly work with you to rectify that, if that's your wish.
Okay, so it was just an oversight is what it is, but it's still an important oversight if it's a water supply.
Absolutely.
And it's one of the provincial interests, and we have to, we have to be in line with that, as well as, I think there's 6 provincial interests, and one of them is definitely water. But, I think we need to have understanding this. We're not going to make second reading tonight with that there. We need a motion you go ahead, Randy, first, and then I'll ask for the motion to extend.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we bring this back, the land use bylaw and municipal planning
Yours
strategy,
on it? Yeah, okay. I
back
couldn't
to
see that.
the planning advisory committee, so we can address the concerns not only with Antigonish, but the Glasgow, Southern and Trent's watershed issues in town Pictou. So.
Okay, so
I'll make that
you
motion.
made the motion, and I got Councillor Bailey there seconded. So this, I just want everybody to understand, we're not only dealing with the watersheds. The other concerns that came in, whether they be here tonight or whether they be, ones that were sent in to us, will all be considered at that same time. And if there's changes we think we should make, well, then that's when we make it. In a way, although we hate to hold the process up, it is a good thing in a way. It gives us a little more opportunity to discuss some of the concerns that were brought forward by other people, not just tonight, like I said, but others. So all will be considered, and then it will go back to council for decision, and then the first reading again. And that would put it to probably the 1st of May. We'll need April to do the first reading, maybe.
Correct. If the PAC meets at some point in the month of March, first, they could recommend a document for first reading, April, and then with the advertising and requirement and notification, it's probably the May council meeting is your
council meeting.
safest bet.
For another attempt at the second reading.
And public hearing, you would go
And the
through.
public hearing, same as tonight, just a repeat of tonight, only early in May. So that would allow more speakers if they want to come forward, the same as tonight.
Correct.
They'd have to, send in ahead of time. Okay, so basically it's about a 2-month postponement till we get this thing right in Antigonish that was missed by Upland. So we don't need a motion. We have to vote on the motion to extend. That was moved and seconded. Are there any questions on that motion to ask the government for an extension of that March 31st date? And it appears that they might be open to that. But I'd look at Councillor Boyles, look like you have a question.
Yes. To me, when you were saying, we don't know what they'll do at that time when we ask for it, this is an important issue, and we can't be bullied into anything. So, if it takes time, it takes time. It takes more time. As I said before, even the Premier himself is saying, who are we to tell people what to do with their land? So I think, it shouldn't be too problem getting an extension. And, with the motion, I wonder why we're going through one level, then take it back to council when it could go through to council and get her done in the one sweep.
I think it's going to take about the same amount of time. It's still going to end up in May, and that's what the Planning Advisory Committee is set up for, is to have the first look at these planning issues and then take it to council for a vote on it or further debate. But I think the time-wise, it's going to end up the same. Are there any other questions on the motion to ask for an extension of time from the province? Go ahead, Counselor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to make sure that everything's going to be looked at that was sent into us concerning like the water resources, inland water resources and things like that, because I know there's a lot of concerns out there, with especially along the coast and the water course buffers. So I'd just like to have some confirmation that that will definitely be looked at too.
Do you want that included in the motion then?
No, it doesn't mean the motion, as long as it's going to be looked,
Okay.
not just that, anything that came
Yeah,
into us.
and that was
will be
what I
discussed.
mentioned, it is not just for the water.
Yeah, okay, I just want to have that
it's for the
clarified,
whole-
so,
Any other issues, yeah.
okay, thank you.
I think everybody understand that then as being the intent of the motion? To look at everything. Okay, I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. So really, we can go no further tonight. We need to send in for that extension, and then Upland is going to work, and getting that corrected down in Antigonish, and then Randy's the chair of that planning advisory committee, so they'll call that meeting as soon as possible, I would imagine, and we get on with the next steps. Is there something else? Brian?
Just probably from a procedural standpoint, when we get to motions of reconsideration, there probably should be a motion just to withdraw first reading of the bylaw, because you have first reading on the books, so,
We have to undo that.
yeah, so basically just a motion of reconsideration. And that motion would have to be made by somebody that voted in the affirmative off that first reading.
Okay, I guess somebody's got a track of who that was. All right, when we get to the motions of reconsideration, then we'll reconsider. Okay, there's nothing more we can do on that tonight, I don't think, because of the holdup here. So we're gonna move on to resolutions. Resolution Recreation Capital Grants. Councillor McKeel, you're on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. Be it resolved that the municipality of the County of Pictou approve the following requests and recreation capital grants. Number 1, Hector Arena Commission, the amount of $1,000 for new hallway lights. Number 2, Kensingville Cemetery Community, Kensingville Community Center, not Community Cemetery, excuse me, I apologize. Kensingville Community Center in the amount of $1,000 for an upgrade of ramp. And Marcia, and that's in the amount of $1,000 for the new picnic area for Hall. So that's a total of $3,000, dated at Pictou, Nova Scotia, this 3rd day of March, 2025, signed by myself, Councillor Darla McKeel, and seconded by Councillor Joe McDonald.
So seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for the 3 recreation grants, $1,000 each, total of $3,000. Are there any questions on those grants? Okay, seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. And the next is Councillor Warden Community Connectivity Event Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution, be it resolved by the municipality of the County of Pictou, approve the Community Connectivity Event Grant, Fund Grant for District 2, which has District 1 there, but it should be District 2, Little Harbor Community Center, $1,500 for a community event, dated at Pictou, Nova Scotia, this 3rd day of March, 2025, signed by myself, Councillor Deborah Wadden, and seconded by Councillor Ron Bailey.
So second.
Okay, you've heard the reading of that resolution for the Community Connectivity Fund money. So for the Little Harbor area, District 2, moved and seconded. Are there any questions on that motion? Okay, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Boyles.
I thought Little Harbor had theirs, because I remember taking the question up of why Pictou Landing didn't get, share of it, and they said they voted, but
Do you want to respond to that, Councillor Wood?
It's a District 2 community event, and it was last year, and it is again this year. All residents of District 2, including Pictou Landing Community, Pictou Landing First Nations, and all the Little Harbor area are included and are invited. So it's for the District 2. I don't separate mine apart. I have a one community event.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote on that one. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. The next one is tax write-offs. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Warden. Be it resolved by the Municipality of the County of Pictou approves of following tax write-offs, and the same having been reviewed and approved by the Financial Service Committee. Accounts now assessed as exempt provincial property. Account number 019-61632, Atlantic Cemetery Holdings, for the amount of $191,141.51. Account number 04517539, Northeast North Nova Correctional Facility, $700,330.31. Dated Pictou, Nova Scotia, this 3rd day of March 2025. Moved by myself, Councillor Randy Palmer, and seconded by Councillor Debbie Wadden.
Okay, I'm gonna step out of the chair for a minute and let the deputy chair carry this, because I want to speak on this.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Any questions? Councillor Turner, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Upon reflection, I've kind of changed my view on this whole tax write-off, in particular with the one concerning the king. And I think that I'd like a legal opinion on this. We've sat around and debated here just as councillors, and nobody has any legal expertise on the matter. So I voted that we do write it off initially, but upon reflection, I think that I'd like a legal opinion on this. It's a matter of law, and I don't think we're qualified here to make a decision without a legal opinion on it. So I've changed my view on, or I'd like not that I've changed my view, I'd like a legal opinion on this before we proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I've never felt this one is right. This is to do with the jail over the other side in Glasgow, the Priestville, is it? But there's money that's owed to this county from the province, and their excuse to get out of paying it is because it's in the name of the king, and therefore the king shouldn't have to pay taxes. But yet, we as a county provide the services to that jail, and it costs money to provide those services. If we don't get it where we should get it from the province, I can see them on the taxes getting away with using the king's name. I still don't think it's right, but they can get away with it, and I think maybe we have some legal answer for that, but they can get away with it on taxes. But services are not taxes, and there's something that we're providing every day to that facility and not getting paid for it. In fact, we did get paid right up to 2021 when unfortunately the person in charge in Halifax was killed in an accident, and then it was shortly after that the new fellow decided that we don't have to pay this, it's in the name of the king. So I know the point that we're never going to collect this, we should write it off, so get it off our books. And I agree with the first one for the Heatherdale Cemetery. There's nobody there anymore. The province is looking at it. There's nobody there, so you're not going to collect those taxes. But for the jail, correctional facility, my understanding is there is a way for us to do, I forget the words now, but there is a way for us to be able to collect that if we change how we're doing things. But we're probably not going to be able to collect the back part, which is what's in here. But I'm against paying that part back or forgiving that payment that should have been made. And so I'm not going to vote in favor of this motion because I don't think we should be giving anything back or forgiving anything until we get this straightened out some way that we can collect that money. And I think it is important, perhaps, I agree with Councillor Turner on the legal end of things, and I don't know if our CAO has any answers on whether we have our legal advisor's opinion on this. We have what the province sent to us, I know.
I don't believe we have a formal opinion on that beyond what's contained in the Act, so.
And perhaps we should, through to you, you're chairing, Mr. Chair, perhaps we should be leaving this until we get that legal opinion.
I might suggest that we could break it down and do the first one and then table the other one until we get the motion, or until we get legal advice. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. It's disappointing that $700,000, and correct me if I'm wrong, that those charges are for services provided to the jail, correct? So people are maybe listening in or in our audience, that's for sewer and water, essentially, correct?
No.
No, it's for sewer and hydrant charges.
Sewer and hydrant charges, not water's charged separately from that.
Water's charged
Okay.
separately and paid.
And they pay.
So it's, okay. So I guess, I guess the argument is we can't go back and get that money. That's what we've been told. I understand that there's precedents in Halifax that they went after federal government for services for Parks Canada for Citadel Hill. And I think it's worth pursuing to get that legal opinion. So I would agree that we should take that off. But the other thing is we'll have to figure out, we'll have to respond to the flow meters and all that other stuff that needs to happen at that jail so we can charge them accordingly. And I hopefully that our engineering department and public works is working on that now so we can get a response that this is what we're going to do moving forward so we don't run into this again. But I would, if do you want me to make an amendment to that original motion? I'll move that we remove Northeast Nova Scotia Correctional Facility in the amount of $700,330.31 from the taxable write-off
Until we get legal opinion?
until we get legal opinion.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Second it.
Regularly moved and seconded. Any questions on that? Hearing none, everyone in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Now, to the other part of the motion. Any questions on that? Okay, everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. That's you.
Okay, thank you for filling in for me. And you're up next anyway, Deputy Warden Murray, on the tax exemption policy.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Municipality of the County of Pictou Tax Exemption Tax Reduction Policy. Policy number 2025-03-03. This policy shall be known as the Tax Exemption and Tax Reduction Policy. This policy shall apply to properties listed in Schedules A, B, and C, commencing on April 1st, 2019. Pursuant to Section 71(1) of the Municipal Government Act, the properties listed in Schedule A to this policy shall be subject to Sections 4 and 9 of this policy, exempt from real property taxation. The tax exemption provided in Section 3 shall apply to general tax only and shall only apply to a proportion of the property specified in Schedule A. Pursuant to Section 71(2) of the Municipal Government Act, the real property tax payable with respect to the properties listed in Schedule B to this policy shall be subject to Sections C and 9 of this policy, reduced to the tax that would otherwise be payable if the properties were residential property inclusive of area rates. The tax reduction provided in Section 5 shall apply only to the portion of the property specified in Schedule B. Pursuant to Section 71(1) of the Municipal Government Act, the properties listed in Schedule C to this policy shall be subject to Sections 8 and 9 of this policy, exempt from equal or real property taxation. The tax exemption provided in Section 7 shall only apply to general taxes and shall only apply to the portion of the property specified in Schedule C, exclusive of sewer use charges and fire rates. When a property listed in Schedule A, B, or C ceases to be owned or occupied by the owner indicated in the schedule, or if the property ceases to be occupied for the purpose which pursuant to Section 71(1) and 71(2) of the Municipal Government Act enabled the Municipality of the County of Pictou to include the property in this policy. The tax exemption and reduction shall cease and the owners of the property shall immediately be liable for the normal real property tax on such property for the portion of taxation year then on expired. And your Schedule A is listed there. There's like 4 pages, 5 pages, maybe more. 8, actually. So I won't read all them. So it's dated Pictou, Nova Scotia, the 3rd day of March, 2025. I so move this resolution, and second by Councillor Palmer.
So second it.
Okay, you've all heard the reading of the resolution, and it deals with the tax exempt. A lot of municipal or community buildings are tax exempt because of their use for community uses. So that's what this is all
Yeah,
about.
it's like community halls and fire
Yeah.
halls and stuff like that are all tax exempt. But if they, or throw them, they sell them off to a person or some company or whatever, then they go back on the taxation. So
Exactly.
that's what it's for.
That's what it's for.
We had 2 properties not very long ago that did that, so.
That we're taking off of that roll, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, is there any questions on the motion? Go ahead, Councilor McDonald.
Just noticing here, I don't know, maybe I'm misplacing them, but Mayor Commission, Thorburn Fire Department, is that they on there? I can't speak about the other one, but I don't see them. Just flipping through here.
Are the other fire departments on here?
Yep.
They are.
Some fire departments have an exempt assessment from PVSC, you're not required to be on the bylaw.
Just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, if you find out they're paying taxes, they'll probably get a hold of us. Okay, so that was moved and seconded, I'm right?
Yep.
So all those in favor? Against? Motion carried. Now we'll come to the capital improvement plan, and Councillor Boyles, you're going for this one.
Thank you, Warden. Resolution, be it resolved that the municipality of the county of Pictou adopt the 2024, 2025 to 2028, 2029 capital investment plan in the amount of $61,951,604. The same having been reviewed and approved by the Financial Service Committee, dated at Pictou, Nova Scotia, the 3rd day of March 2025, signed by myself, Peter Boyles, and seconded by Councillor Chester Dorr.
Okay, and that's, as said there, was reviewed at quite some length at our Financial Services Committee, the capital investment plan for the next 5 years. In that amount, $61,951,604. So are there any questions to do with that capital investment plan? Councillor Bailey.
Button. Thank you, Warden. Just a quick question on it. So I know we'll be sitting down sometime this year doing the capital budget, looking at the capital budget and doing up a plan for 25 and 26. The projects that was looked at back August when council did it, do those automatically come back on, or any that didn't make the grade, would they have to be reapplied for?
Go ahead, Brian.
Our practice has been that we bring them back automatically. So if they were considered last year but did not receive the majority vote to be included, we bring them back. The only way we wouldn't bring them back is if the councillor said they no longer want to consider. So they will automatically come back.
So it comes back, but it still has to be voted on by
Correct.
council as to what the priority is.
It's reevaluated on an annual basis.
Okay, are there any questions, any further questions, I should say, on the capital improvement plan for 24-25? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. And Councillor Boyles, you're up again. Tax sale update.
Yes. Again, I don't know. We heard so many different times when it's going to be and not going to be, and people are just getting really, realistically, that, is there gonna be one? I mean, we've been told different dates, and then, it's been put off, and something else has come up, and just makes you wonder, does, the ones that are doing it know what they're doing at the law firms, or I just don't know, maybe they're not in that kind of law, I don't know, but I was wondering if, through you, Council, or Warden, if, the CEO could tell us what's going on and when we can expect a tax sale.
Okay, I'll turn it over to our CAO then to see what kind of answer we have.
Sure. So we are still moving forward with it. We do have 60-day notices that are going to go out. There's a couple other procedural things that we're looking at around minimum price as well, that council does have the ability to accept less than what's owing. So we're looking at that and developing a recommendation on what would be a fair price to get at tax sale, because some of these properties date back, they're old, dangerous, and unsightly, so there's large liens on them that the land just isn't worth the lien type thing. So so we are looking at that from a procedural standpoint.
So I think Councillor Boyle's question is when, when do we look at as a possible date, or how soon, so that we could move on with our first tax sale in quite a few years?
Yeah, so we're basically at the point, 60-day notices going out, and then really the sales anytime after that. So generally, there's an advertising requirement of 30 days as well in there.
So that sounds like about the 1st of June to me, but I don't know, I'm just adding the time up.
Yeah, it's sometime in May.
Sometime in May, I guess that's the
Just
best we
based
can come
on-
up with, Councillor Boyles. I know you've been asking for a long time, but that's at least the date.
Well, the people are asking me, there's people, people, as you know, that develop properties and turn around, and when they can grab out one at a tax sale and do it over, and you know what I mean? There's people that do stuff like that, and plus people looking for houses, looking for land. But what's happening is we're not having any, and we're being told that, yeah, it's going to be this date, and then it comes and goes, and then, no, it's going to be this one. And then it's just so very confusing, and it's becoming a laughingstock in my district, because every time they ask me, well, I guess it's put off now till, and they just figure there's never going to be one. But it'd be good if we turn around, if there's going to be one in May, that'll be good. We'll be all waiting for May.
I realize your frustration. Okay, let's move along to concerns regarding increase in prices for Canadian foods. Councillor Donnie Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I had a resident in my district call me here, very concerned about the price of Canadian food going up, because she's buying Canadian, like everybody else is now. And the large grocery chains in New Glasgow there, she said the price was up more than 10% in 1 week. So she wanted me to bring it to the council table here and see if we can maybe write a letter to the government and ask them to keep an eye on it, or something along that line. I mean, there's a ton of Canadian patriotism out there now, because Mr. Trump's about to lay a whole bunch of heavy tariffs on us there. And she's buying Canadian, which is good, and she's trying to come up with a reason to keep the large grocery chains from just making money on the fact that we're buying Canadian. And she wanted to know if, she didn't ask me, but I thought we could send a letter out to there's no Department of Consumer Affairs anymore. I looked that up, it's not there, but there must be some government department that we asked them to keep an eye on it. But I just throw it out there for discussion, see what everybody else thinks. But
I think there is a legitimate fear. I think that as much as we all want to support Canada and buy Canadian, and that's good for our producers and good for any local products, but the fear I think that she's expressing is, could some of the larger chains, or not just larger chains, I guess smaller ones too, take advantage of that and say, well, you know, we know they're gonna buy these Canadian products, so let's put the price up on them. Some not gonna make any difference. That's her point, I think.
That's her point, yeah.
But, you know, I don't know what effect we can have on that, but certainly if you want the council to write a letter to the government, we can find a department to send it to, I guess, but we need to start with a motion and somebody to second it in order to get there.
Well, I can make a motion that we send a letter.
Okay, and you need to get a seconder. Okay, it's moved and seconded that we express the concern that some of our residents have brought forward of possible, I won't call it price gouging, but it's raising prices, you know, because people are gonna buy Canadian, raising those prices unsubstantially, I guess, or unfairly, whatever you wanna call it. And we'll leave it with staff, I guess, to figure out who best in the government to send it to. So that's the motion then that's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Federal government. Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. I guess my concern with this is that we can't tell businesses, I guess, what to price their products for. And unfortunately, while this is, you know, great for Canadian companies and consumers and, you know, wanting to support local and Canadian companies, if one of the major retailers is going to take advantage of this, which they're a business and they're in it to make money, of course, this is what they're going to do. You know, I don't really know how we can regulate free enterprise and their choice to do that. While it might be frowned upon, I don't know, in the public courts, it would be frowned upon, but I don't know what legal or reaching effect the government has on controlling food or prices, for that matter, on anything Canadian. So I'm not quite sure if, I don't really know where this is going to go. I guess that's, well, it's a nice idea and I understand behind it. Logistically, I'm not quite sure what can be done. Thank you.
Okay, and I think we can send it. The good that might be done is simply to bring it to people's attention, bring it to the store's attention and whatnot, that they're being watched maybe. There's nobody gonna come in and tell them what price to put on things, but sometimes if things get some attention, then it makes, you know, those stores, those retail outlets or whatever, sort of sit up and take notice and say we're being watched. I think that's the only thing that could come out of this. Is there any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Boyles. Oh, forgot to watch the lights. No wonder nobody's putting their hand up.
I think it's nothing wrong with writing a letter and finding out. At least we'll find out one way or the other. Issue is somebody that can look into this or not. But also, I think it would be something too to let them know that you know, maybe they figure there's a windfall right now to get, you know, put their prices up on Canadian products and make the money, but everybody's buying Canadian. But then someday this is going to be resolved and people won't forget.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. There are mechanisms that the federal government has to regulate prices. And I'm old enough to remember when Trudeau brought in wage and price controls.
Yeah.
So if the economy calls for it, the government has mechanisms to do that. So it is a legal avenue that could be pursued. We're not to that point yet. I mean, but in terms of mechanisms to control prices, federal government can do that. So, in terms of just a general letter addressing our concerns, I think I don't have a problem with that. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Dewar.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Well, I think it's important that we're sending a letter just to show the people that we're listening to them when they're asking us a question. Like, at least at our end of it all, at the grassroots end of it, we're still there for our people. And I think it's really important because the other morning I was roaming around and she doesn't want me doing any shopping because, well, I just bring home a lot of things that I'm not supposed to eat, I guess. But I was in the coolers, looking in the coolers. And right now down in the States, you can't buy eggs, okay? Eggs is really, really valuable, and you can't get chickens because they did away with millions and millions of them. But I couldn't believe that there's a dozen brown eggs at the big store, and they're $8 and either 19 cents or 29 cents a dozen. $8. So somebody's gouging somebody, because right below them, there's other ones, I guess, that must be in a cage instead of loose. They're considerable cheaper, okay? But not crazy amount. But there is, and we're sitting here saying, oh, well, what's he talking about that for? Well, in another month or so, we're going to hear the report. How much the profits of the big companies made. And it's not $100,000, and not $100 million, it's billions most times. And, like, how much can you squeeze a loaf of bread or an egg or a pound of butter for? Like, holy mighty butter. I'm sure Scotchburn would be booming if they could still sell their butter out of Scotchburn now. But anyway, there's all kinds of things. If you just take a few minutes and roam around, you'll say, well, that went up a lot since last week. Or, like, I'm like Larry, I'm getting some age on me too. I'm not going to mention who he was talking about, but do you remember when Kraft dinner was $3 for $1? Yeah. Like, think about it. But anyway, I think it's important to still remember the people that put us here, and we got to help them. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor McKeel.
Absolutely. And I think what I was taking it came a little negative. I am a mom. I grocery shop multiple times a week, unfortunately, because I have a growing boy, and anybody has kids, it's hard to keep them fed. I too have changed my habits. I too have changed the brands that I buy. I too have done that since 2020. It's 5 years ago this week when our lives changed. However, I think we've all made concessions. I agree with exactly everything that Councillor Dewar said. Stuff is out of control. I mean, look at a pound of butter right now. I've seen them as high as over $7. And if you want to eat, real food and whole food, unfortunately, it costs a lot, and even junk food is a lot, even a bag of chips now. But I guess my point was, while I understand and agree with it, I don't really know what effect it's going to have, unfortunately. And, while I do understand writing a letter, I'm not really sure what the government, the end of the day, these companies aren't really concerned with us, unfortunately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Boyles.
No, they're saying buy local and stuff like that. There's something that people, with eggs especially, I know people right now, they have the little mom and pop chicken growing organizations, and one of them, $3 a dozen brown eggs, the other one $4 a dozen. I think there's 4 or 5 of them I know that does that for $4 a dozen. So there's good buys out there if we go to them.
Okay, we've had lots of discussion. I just want to make sure that I keep my 2 chickens. Even though they're on winter layoff right now, I'm going to keep them. Okay, let's call for the vote on the motion. It's moved and seconded. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. Okay, and we're moving the library funding into closed session because of the confidentiality of the contracts, I guess. So at this point, do we want to finish up the end of it and then go into closed session? Can we do that? Or no, do we have to make a motion on the sidewalks when we come back into?
There could be motions coming out of
Coming
both
out of there, yeah.
in-camera
Okay.
items. But if you wish to
We could do the community announcement, motion to reconsideration.
stagger,
Yeah, I just wanted to, well,
Yeah.
people are here, because everybody will have to empty out. Okay, so we'll skip those two in-camera items, and we'll move down to, the community announcements. Are there any community announcements tonight? Go ahead, Deputy Warden Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a call from a resident in District 5 who's, I think, employed at the Riverview Adult Center in Riverton, and the
Okay.
changes that are coming on there. So it won't be announced that there's going to be a meeting at the Pictou County Wellness Center on March 29th at 9 o'clock, and that was called by the province to explain to the families and any public that wanted to attend what's going to happen to the residents that are there. So that's the announcement, the 29th of March at 9 o'clock at the Wellness Center.
Okay, and that's open to anybody, though? You
Open to
don't
the
have to
public.
have family there or anything? It's open
No.
to anybody?
Yep.
Okay, and Councilor McDonald?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the 26th annual Lismore Wintertime Review has been sold out. It runs from 7th to 9th, and it's this 26th year, so it's something to look for. And on March 14th, there's music trivia at the American Mission Community Center at 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you, and that is an historic, thing in Lismore. I know Councillor Butler, former Councillor Butler always mentioned that too, and they always sell it, which is a good sign. Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Warden. I just wanted to say that we had our final rally on the weekend for the Craft Hockeyville at the rink, and we had a very good turnout, and we had a lot of people voting. Voting finished last night at 1 a.m., and now it's up to the judges to decide, but if anything did come out of this, it brought back a lot of community spirit, and a lot of people were talking about it, so. Leave it up to the judges to find out March 15th if you're in the Final Four, so even if we don't make it, it was a good run, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that update, and we'll be hoping for the best. Any other community announcements this evening? Go ahead, Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, I'd just like the Hillside Community Hall has their Friday night jam every Friday night from 6:30 to 9. We've been having a really good attendance. We usually around 40 people and anywhere from 9 to 15 players. And it's $5 at the door. You get a lunch and is served, and any players that come do not have to pay anything. Also, we had the volunteer meeting at the hall. Thanks to Kevin putting out some flyers. We got some flyers out ourselves. It was a really good experience. We come up with some really good volunteers that were just there, and once they were asked, and they're right on board. So I think if other places want to get volunteers, they should be having a meeting like this, because we lucked out really good on it. Thank you.
Sounds good. These are rolling good in Hillside. Go ahead, Councillor Dewar.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock in the Riverton Hall, they're going to have their annual meeting, but as well as that, they're going to show off all their new additions. They redid that hall completely inside. There was money available through Access Canada or accessibility funds. They fixed the washrooms, made them all right, and the kitchen. There's just been a wonderful amount of work done there, and there's a lot of new interested people in the community back taking an interest in the Riverton Hall. So that's at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. If just somebody's out around and they want to go and see what they're doing, maybe they could see something that was done at that hall that could go to their area and get something done, and find out the contact people to help you out do that. So that's tomorrow evening at the Riverton Hall, and that's on the Stellarton Trafalgar Road, just right in Riverton, not too far up past the homes and the schools. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dewar. Lots going on, even though it's still winter. We're starting to wake up. We're like the groundhog. Okay, any other community announcements this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to our motions of reconsideration. And I think this is where the CEO recommended that we withdraw the motion of first reading for our land use bylaw and our municipal planning strategy. So we would need a motion to withdraw that. Councillor Palmer?
I'll make a motion that we remove the first reading of land use bylaw and municipal planning strategy.
Second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, which puts us back to the beginning of the clock again, I guess, if we get the extension that we're looking for. Any questions on that motion of reconsideration? I think we discussed it pretty good anyway, so all those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. At this time, I need a motion to go in camera. Against, motion carried. So I think we only have the one thing to consider, and that is the contract for the Blue Acres sidewalk. Somebody want to make a motion? Go ahead, Councilor Thompson.
I move we accept the low bid on the recommendation of our Director of Public Works to BD Clifton to do the work of installing sidewalks and safety light features in the Plymouth area, more commonly known as Blue Acres.
And does that have a timeline on it or not, that contract with Clifton?
He says tender agrees to achieve ready for takeover within 30 weeks from written notification of award.
30 weeks, 6 months roughly.
6 months,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so is there any questions, comments on the, or wait, now, we didn't get a seconder, did we?
Yes, Randy.
Randy, oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Just like to say, this is great news, this is a long time coming. I pass through that area every day, I go there multiple times a day. I see people trying to get around, and if you had seen the sidewalks here this past week, it was unbelievable. People in mud and everything like that, and up over the banks and everything like that. This is very good news, and I think the residents are gonna be very happy. And it's gonna be, people have safety concerns over the crossing off those intersections. Well, people are crossing those intersections now with no safety whatsoever. So at least now, with these safety features and things like that, they should be a little bit safer. So I do believe this is a great thing for that area, and it's a long time coming, so it's good news.
And I would concur that it's a great thing, and I'm just pleased that somebody finally stepped forward to cooperate with us on the cost, so I don't think we could have done it without that happening. And safety has to remain a big concern as we do this project, in the middle of doing it for sure. But if we need more lighting or we need whatever, then we have to make sure that those wide crossings that Councillor Boyles mentioned are given the attention that they deserve. Okay, you ready for the vote? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Boyles.
Just on Councillor Palmer's statement there, that people cross now with taking, I guess, their own chances, right? But they know they're taking their chances. They're watching. They're making sure cars aren't coming. Once we put these lights there or whatever, oh, we're protected. We got these lights. We're going to walk right across now. That light just changed. That car might not turn around and stop. So it might even be worse. That's all I'm saying. And that's the reason I'm going to vote against it, is because of the safety concerns. That's nothing else but the safety concerns.
Okay, and Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Another consideration that's probably going to come to council somewhere along the line is sidewalks in the New Scotland area, because there's a hotel going up there in the spring. The Dunkeld is there, and so there's a lot of activity in that area, and there's a need for sidewalks in there as well. So I presume that probably in the next little while there'll be some requests for sidewalks to go in around there as well. So.
Yep, lots of requests, so we have to
So
deal
that's,
with
I'm
those,
just
yeah.
saying that because the New Scotland Business Park has been such a success, and I'd like to make this point, is I'd like to congratulate first of all, the council for being so patient with it. There was a lot of calls to pack it in, but we didn't, and it's been a tremendous success, and I'd like to congratulate the former warden of his foresight, teaming up with town in Glasgow and developing that area, because it's going to be a major success when everything is completed in there. So it's kudos to the council and kudos to the former warden on his foresight on that matter. But there's going to be a call for sidewalks in there somewhere, probably soon. Thanks.
Councillor Thompson.
I'll say the last word if somebody else has anything to say.
Anybody else got anything to say, or getting ready to go home? Okay, You're the last one.
All right, so it's been 16 years since I started talking about this, so I'm glad I'll be able to put this one to bed. It's,
You must have something else lined up.
just watch me. So, this is gonna make it tremendously safer. Right now, as Councillor Palmer described, and I've seen it, people walk down the main road to avoid the mud or the ice or the snow banks because the plows can't get through the mess that's on the side of the road. And there's been some accidents there, and it's because of a lack of sidewalks. And this is our insurers are gonna appreciate this as well, because right now, we never had an answer for when there was an accident. So I want to thank council for their patience in getting this work done, staff for pushing this forward. It hasn't been an easy process, and at times it's been quite frustrating. But I think that the residents of our communities of Plymouth and surrounding areas will have the benefit of this for years to come. Years ago, before there was lots of vehicles on the road, the traffic's expanded, they used to go walk the loop. They used to walk the loop, and they stopped because it's too dangerous and they don't have a safe place to put their foot. So I'm hoping this promotes active transportation, provides a connection to our community, to the services and the schools in New Glasgow, because some of our youngsters, they're energetic and they walk to school, to North Nova. So this is a long time coming, but it's I can't wait to see the end product. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and that's our final item to deal with tonight, so I will declare this meeting adjourned. Oh, I was getting out of here. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll call for the vote on the awarding of the contract to BD Clifton for the East River Road sidewalks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Now you can go home.
Everybody used to walk the loop a long time ago. When I was in high school, no, we don't anymore. No, everybody used to walk the loop.